Thank you. Please be seated. Or stand.
We're ready, Judge.
Bring the jury in, please. All right, thank you. Please be seated. I remind you, just remain under oath. That's whenever you're ready, Mr. Dougherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Sears, I left 337 and 337A through E on the witness stand there. Can you take a quick look at those, please?
Yes.
Do those exhibits fairly and accurately depict different websites that you found the defendant to have been visiting on his phone from January through March of 2021?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the people move to admit 337 and 337A through E, please.
No objection.
All right, 337, and then additionally A through E.
Yes, Your Honor, please.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Your Honor, may we have the screen and publish 337? Just for this first page, Investigator Sears, are you set with your screen?
It's coming on right now.
Okay, great. Just to get the jury oriented to this, and of course it'll be in evidence, they could view it later if they have questions, but what are we looking at on this type of screen?
One moment. Yes. On exhibit 337, you can see a date and time of last visited. And then to the right, a URL with the website that was visited.
And generally speaking, what kind of websites are we showing the jury through 337 and then 337A through E?
All of these websites are for stores and places you can purchase guns.
So previously you've testified about the defendant or the defendant's phone being used to look at different images of guns and firearm accessories, prior mass shootings, and now these are websites where you can actually purchase firearms.
Yes.
What dates do we see on 337?
These dates range from the bottom, March 7th, 2021 to March 13th, 2021.
And going up from the bottom, looking at March 7th, for example, do you see references to website pages of 5.56 NATO ammunition?
Yes, I do.
We'll go to 337A. Can I approach?
Yes,
Just get closer.
yes.
And 337A.
337A, starting from the bottom, includes March 4th, 2021 to the very top, March 7th, 2021.
Looking at the bottom of 337A, does that also reference 5.56 ammunition?
Yes, it does.
And you go up to March 5th, around 11:16 p.m., so 11:16 at night. What is the defendant looking at in terms of drug history?
He is looking at ammunition, 5.56 specifically.
And then above that at 11:16:50 p.m.
It's a grab a gun, federal 1,000 rounds can, and 5.56 is the ammunition type.
We're going to go to 337B. What do we see in 337?
These dates all occur on March 4th, 2021. Most of them are at the Grab a Gun website, and a couple others for Sportsman's Finest.
So based on this, you're looking at Grab a Gun and Sportsman's Finest for different items such as rifle ammo, AR magazines, 5.56 NATO ammo, and so on.
Yes,
337C, dates of weeks.
these dates range from February 27th, 2021 to March 4th, 2021.
337D, what we have.
Dates February 24th to February 27th, 2021.
You had, for example, February 25th, 2021, 11:01 PM. What was he looking at?
He was looking at a website called snipershide.com on a shooting threads and scopes.
What scope in particular?
A monstrum scope.
237E. Until the jury dates.
Yes, these dates, all of these dates occur on January 1st, 2021.
And what kind of websites is he looking at on January 1st, 2021?
He is looking at a website called rkguns.com.
Your Honor, can I approach with what I've marked as 338 through 338M as in Michael?
Yes. So is there 338, then 338A?
Yes.
Okay.
Three, three, eight, and then 338A through M. Do those pages reflect web history and items the defendant was looking up on his phone?
Yes,
And do those records there fairly and accurately depict what you were finding on the defendant's phone in the manner we've described already for the jury?
yes, they do.
Your Honor, at this time, people move to omit 338 and then 338A through M, please.
I can just have 1 minute, Your Honor.
Yes.
No objection.
All right. They are admitted.
So I'm going to publish 338. Just get us oriented so the jury understands what they're looking at in 338 and the following pages.
Yes, these exhibits are the results in the searched items artifact. And here you can see there is a timestamp category, but a timestamp is not always associated or recovered with these searched items. And you can see the value, which that list of values, those are the terms that were entered in the Safari application. You can see to the right, the source of all of these in this exhibit is Safari.
So what does that mean in practical terms? What's happening with the phone to produce this kind of record?
On the phone, the user is in the Safari application and he is using a web browser and typing in those values.
So going into Safari, typing this into the search bar, hitting return,
Yes,
and then the phone records each one of those searches.
yes.
I'm not going to ask you to read every line of every page we're about to present, but what's the general nature of the things that were being searched for here?
Generally, everything gun related, firearms related, ammunition, similar to things we have previously discussed.
And can you just pick a couple and read them aloud to the jury, please?
Yes, bullet stuck in barrel AR-15, gun shop near me, AR not chambering bullets, SAR K2 45 extended magazines.
And also Ruger AR 5.56 pistol up.
Yes.
338A, another series of items that the defendant was typing into Safari on his phone.
Yes,
And again, most of these being firearm or firearm related,
yes,
not all of them. We're gonna move forward, 33B. Do you see a reference to gun stores on 33B? About 7,
yes, I do.
338C. And as you go down the list on 338C, do you see searches for a monstrum scope and scope reticle?
Yes, I do.
338D, and then 338E, what do we have at the bottom of 338E?
At the bottom, a search term are 30 round clips legal in Colorado.
What does that mean in terms of what the defendant was doing with his phone? The fact that that appears there.
He would have been in the Safari application and he would have entered exactly as you see that written into a browser.
30 round clips legal in Colorado.
Yes,
Moving ahead here, 338F and 338G, also similar searches, all involving firearms or firearms related accessories.
yes.
And on 338H, what do we start to see in the list of searches here?
There were additional search terms discovered that related to chemicals and search terms or items that I know to be associated with bomb making materials.
For example, what's the third one down?
The third one is ammonium sulfate explosion.
338I and then 338J, similar searches for weapons related items or topics.
Yes,
And then 338K, and looking at the 338K list of searches, do you see 3 down, what it says there?
the third down is Colorado magazine law.
And as you go further down, do you see making Ruger 5.56 full auto?
Yes, I do.
338L, what do you see fourth one down?
The fourth down is hollow point.
And there's one further down that's marked with black, red, and yellow dots on the left. What does that say?
That says, are hollow point bullets more deadly?
And then 338M. And then for some of these searches, did you actually isolate what the defendant had been searching for on his phone?
Yes,
I'm going to ask to approach and show you 339 through 343 for identification. May I approach, Ron?
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Recognize those?
Yes, I do.
Recognize those?
This is another view of the searched items and the value. And then within the value, there's a field in parentheses where it indicates are hollow point bullets more deadly?
Your Honor, at this time, people move to omit 339 through 343.
No objection.
Admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Yes.
339, what does this show us?
This is a view of searched items, the artifacts recovered from the phone. You can see that the searched items, the source field is Safari, the value field is are hollow point bullets more deadly, and the origin field is unknown.
340.
This in 340 is the details of one of these searched item artifacts, more specifically, again, the source being Safari, the value are hollow point bullets more deadly.
341.
341 is a website on Quora.com with a discussion what is the most deadly type of round bullet?
And when we look at 342, is that the same website, but that's the URL reflected?
That's correct.
And what was the last date that that website was visited by the defendant
The last visited date is January 20th, 2021.
for the most deadly type of bullet?
Yes,
And 343 is the URL with that date of January 20th, 2021?
yes,
You touched on this in the long list of general searches, but I'm going to ask you to take a look at what's been marked as people's 344 for identification. May I approach, John?
Yes, sir.
What is 344?
344 is another web history artifact, a last visited date of January 24th, 2021, and a URL on Quora.com for a discussion, are 30 round magazines legal in Colorado?
Your Honor, I'm going to move 344 into evidence.
No objection.
Admitted.
And now the jury sees it on the screen behind you, Ms. Sears. What date was that URL last visited by the defendant, the one, are 30 round magazines legal in Colorado?
Last visited on January 24th, 2021.
At 6 o'clock in the evening?
Yes.
So I've gone pretty quickly through these websites. I'm going to ask you some direct questions about web searches that you found during your review of the defendant's cell phone, okay?
Yes.
So January 1st, 2021, did he look up what websites do you like to buy guns from?
Yes.
January 2nd, 2021, online search for how to buy a gun online.
Yes.
January 16th, 2021, online search on silencers.
Yes.
January 20th, 2021, we talked about the most deadly type of bullet. January 24th, 30 round magazines legal in Colorado. January 27th, can a semi-automatic gun be made fully automatic with a shoelace? Is that right?
Yes.
And then February 17th, 2021, online searches for Swift links and lightning links and other articles related to making assault rifles fully automatic.
Yes.
And going through this next section, I'm going to ask you questions about whether you found evidence on the defendant's phone to indicate the defendant actually started to arm himself. In other words, purchase firearms and accessories prior to the mass shooting at King Soopers, okay?
Yes.
Did you find a screenshot of an email from Grab a Gun thanking the defendant for his order and with the email indicating the order was shipped via FedEx on March 9th, 2021?
Yes, I did.
And you recovered a number of voicemails from the defendant's phone total.
Yes. There were, I believe, 51 voicemails recovered.
Were 3 of those voicemails from a business that identified itself as Westminster Arms?
Yes.
And in each one of those voicemails, were you able to listen to and transcribe what was in the voicemail?
Yes, I did.
And were each one of those about purchases the defendant had made at Westminster Arms or through Westminster Arms,
Yes.
with dates of January 8th, 2021,
Yes.
January 19th, 2021,
Yes.
and February 9th, 2021?
Yes.
Did you also find a text message from March 16th, 2021 from Eagle's Nest Armory on the defendant's phone?
Yes, I did.
And was that from approximately 5:41 in the afternoon?
Yes.
And did that text message state Eagle's Nest Armory, thanks for shopping with us? Let us know how your visit was by leaving a review and then having a link with a JPEG image of Eagle's Nest Armory.
Yes.
As part of the investigation, including your work on the phone, were investigators working to determine whether the defendant had practiced with firearms prior to the mass shooting of King Supers?
Yes,
Any indication from your work on the phone that the defendant may have practiced firing in the woods of any area?
yes, I found search terms.
That's for speculation.
I haven't heard the answer yet. Did you want to object about the answer or can I hear that?
No, the answer's fine, Your Honor.
Okay, what is the answer?
There's a search term, White Ranch Park shooting.
White Ranch Park being what?
White Ranch Park is an open space area near where the suspect resided.
So that would indicate to you that he had looked up White Ranch Park and specifically shooting.
Yes,
Yeah, any objections overruled?
Thank you. And to be clear, it wasn't just White Ranch Park, but he was actually looking up White Ranch Park shooting.
that's correct.
All right, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what's been marked as 345 through 348 for identification.
Thank you.
After finding what you just described about him looking up White Ranch Park shooting, did you then find additional information that he actually looked at websites for White Ranch Park?
Yes, I did.
And are those reflected in 345 through 348?
Yes,
Your Honor, I'm going to move to admit 345 through 348.
Vordier,
Yes,
when we look at People's Exhibit 345, this is a website for White Ranch Park. Correct?
yes,
There's nothing mentioning shooting on this particular exhibit.
that's correct.
When we look at People's Exhibit 346, this is another website for White Ranch Park.
Yes,
Nothing to do with White Ranch Park shooting.
yes,
When we look at People's Exhibit 347, this is the web history with the URL of a search, correct?
yes,
And it's for visitgolden.com listing White Ranch Park 5072.
yes,
And then when we look at People's Exhibit 348, this is another web history with a longer URL.
yes,
And this is a google.com search.
yes,
And we can see in there again, there's White plus Ranch plus Park.
that's correct.
Thank you. I have no objection.
admitted.
Just to be clear, he looked up White Ranch Park shooting and then these websites related to White Ranch Park.
I found evidence of both of those searches, yes.
Just and 345, 346, 347, 348. Ms. Harold just touched on all these. These are all related to White Ranch Park. It includes information about the park and what's allowed at the park.
That's correct.
Anything related to Golden Gate Park on his phone?
Yes, I did find things for Golden Gate Park.
And for those who may not know, where is Golden Gate Park?
Golden Gate Park is also closer to the suspect's resident. It is west of and between Arvada and Boulder.
And did you also, in looking at the defendant's phone, find any videos of individuals firing weapons?
Yes, I did.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at what's been marked 349 through 352, if I can approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
Through 352, excuse me. Videos that you found on the defendant's phone related to firing of weapons.
Yes,
And these were videos that you found the links for on the defendant's phone.
that's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, people move 349 through 352 into evidence, please.
If I can just have a moment. No objection.
Admitted.
We have 349 on the screen. Can you just tell the jury what we're looking at here, please?
Yes, this was recovered in the video's artifact of the phone extraction. On the left, you can see one of the screenshots of that video. You can see a male holding a rifle, wearing ear protection. He is at a firing range with a target downrange and several spent casings on the ground.
And when was this video accessed?
The detail pane on the right provides additional information for this video, and the listed access date is 5/20 of 2020.
350.
Another video that I observed, and this shows the target brought up closer and showing shot placement.
351.
The same male seen in the prior exhibit wearing ear protection with a handgun in his hand and a target downrange, and somebody has added a text saying headshots.
What date was this accessed?
On 5/20 of 2020.
And then 352 is what?
This is an individual's hand, appears to be right hand, holding a firearm, a handgun, turned to the side, and an emoji with hearts added to the picture.
When
I'm
was
sorry, video.
Sure. When was this accessed?
On 4/23 of 2020.
I'm going to switch gears on you here. What's the notes section of a phone?
Notes are, and it's an application that's natively installed on all iPhone devices in which the user of that device can go in and input any type of note they wish.
And that's a typical app on an iPhone.
Yes, it is natively installed.
So going back to our living room scenario, you might go on someone's phone and find notes, including movies to watch, and then they typed in movies that they want to watch.
Yes, that's correct.
Did you find things relevant to this case in the note section of the defendant's phone?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, can I approach with what's been marked as 353? It contains a number of pages. A moment, please. I believe it's 13 pages. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yeah, so is it all just 353?
Yeah, sure.
13 pages.
Yes.
Okay.
And I should ask this question. Is 353 the note section just printed out and it goes for 13 pages?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You recovered this from the note section of the defendant's phone?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When was the note section of the defendant's phone created?
This particular note was created on 9/24 of 2020.
When was it last modified?
The last modification time is March 17th, 2021.
Your Honor, at this time I move people's 353 into evidence.
Objection.
Admitted.
Can you just get us oriented to this, please?
Yes, on the right, you can see that this artifact came from the note application on the phone. The title of this, which typically, if not titled by the user of the phone, is the first line of the note, in this case, BJJ. You can see the creation time of 9/24/2020 and a modification time of 3/17/2021.
And what does the modification time for this note signify?
In this case, it means that something within that note was modified and updated that modification time.
And are the first few pages things to do with hand-to-hand combat?
Yes.
I'm going to move us ahead through that section. And the page we're looking at on the screen here, what do we see?
This was a very long note, and it is a continuation of the note titled BJJ.
And at some point, does the note change from talking about hand-to-hand combat to something else?
Yes,
What does the note begin to document?
there is a line in the note which indicates AR stuff, and it begins to document AR stuff and begins to document how to control, manipulate, load, unload an AR, and make movements, tactical movements, shooting while moving, things related to firearms and tactics.
And does AR stuff appear at the start of what I'll call the third long paragraph here?
Yes,
And beginning from there, does the rest of the note include all the information that you just touched on in terms of how to fire and tactical movements related to firing a weapon?
yes,
So for example, right below AR stuff, it said bring optics to eye, not opposite.
yes,
These are notes that are being input into this note section of the phone.
yes,
This next page that I now have up, is this more of the same?
yes,
Next page as well?
yes,
And looking down at the third paragraph on this page, this is the notations talk about how to hold a magazine in place and how to use a magazine notch.
yes,
As you go further down, does it talk about high ready and low ready?
yes,
And then towards the bottom, does it talk about how to move and firing while moving?
yes,
And specifically, it says engage, move, stop, engage.
yes.
What's at the top of that next page? And I'm referring specifically to the second, what I'll call paragraph.
The second paragraph begins with hallway clear. Take a large step, toes outside, then rotate hips and kneel down, then get position.
Further down on that last paragraph, does that start with scopes?
Yes,
And does the rest of that talk about different things related to how to use a scope?
yes,
And the final one talks about drills that can be done using a firearm?
yes.
Did you also, going through the defendant's phone, find any indication that he was looking for bomb-making materials?
Yes,
What did you find that he was doing related to explosives?
Yeah, this time I object under 401, 403.
Overruled.
I found a number of artifacts in various locations, recovered from various locations of the phone to indicate there had been searching for bomb-making materials, including in the images, the web history, searched items.
And did you prepare a sample of those for the jury to review with regards to this particular topic?
Yes, I did.
And before I ask you to take a look at the sampling, how many images did you tag related to bomb-making materials that the defendant had evidence of and cached images on his phone?
I tagged 400 images.
And that those 400 images, or roughly 400 images, were from January through March of 2021.
Yes,
I'm going to ask to approach and show you 354 and 354A through H. Recognize those?
yes, I do.
And are those the pages that you put together for the jury related to what we just discussed?
Yes,
Your Honor, at this time, people move to omit 354 and 354A through H, please.
Objection 401, 403.
I think we address this at the bench and I'll adopt Mr. Dougherty's response at the bench as my reason for allowing it.
Just get us oriented to what we're looking at here. And I'm going to go a little faster through this section since this is similar perhaps to the layout you had presented the firearms related materials on.
Yes. To orient these, again, these are images that were recovered from the extraction of the phone. And these are items more specifically relating to bomb making materials.
And we have here, I'm just going to scroll through it, 9 pages of tagged items of the 400 that you actually saw.
Yes.
Fair to say a very significant number of images involving chemicals that could be used as precursors for explosives.
Yes.
And did his web history, going back to the web history, indicate that he was then looking to purchase those same kinds of materials?
Yes.
Are you aware that some of those same chemicals were then found in the defendant's home pursuant to the search warrant?
Yes.
Did you conclude from your analysis that he was trying to figure out how to make and use explosives?
Yes.
Let's talk next about any indication, if any, that he targeted Boulder.
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what you found specifically in regards to Boulder? And I'll ask you a question first. Are you aware from your work on this case, as well as your analysis of the phone, the defendant lived and worked in Arvada?
Yes, I am aware of that.
So what did you find related to Boulder on the phone?
I found a few images related to Boulder. And I also found artifacts within the location and navigation artifacts of the phone extraction.
Your Honor, may I approach with 355, 356, 357, and 357A?
Yes, sir.
We need one by one, Sears. 355 is what?
Excuse me. 355 is an image that I observed in the phone extraction results. And I know this to be a photograph of Boulder with the flat irons in the background.
Your Honor, at this time, people move 355 into evidence.
Bordier,
Yes.
do you know when this photo became apparent on Mr. Alissa's phone?
Yes, there are associated date details with this image.
When is that?
March, I believe it was February or March of 2021.
No objection.
Admitted.
Does it sound right to you if I were to say your report says the image was dated March 18th, 2021 at 4:09 p.m.?
That's correct.
This image was put on or looked at through the defendant's phone on March 18th, 2021.
That's correct.
And what did you identify that allowed you to determine that was actually Boulder?
The longer I appeared at this image, I can see a watermark in the center. It's very faint. And it appeared to be wording introducing an address on Dewey Avenue. I cannot, it appears 805 perhaps.
And do you know Dewey Avenue to be a location in Boulder?
Yes.
Did you also find any indication in the defendant's map functions on his phone that he had looked at Boulder? And I'm referring you to 356 first, please.
Yes, I did.
And what is 356?
Exhibit 356 is a screenshot of Apple Maps in which the indicator for where the phone is actually at the time this photograph was taken is between Arvada and Boulder.
Your Honor, at this time, people move 356 into evidence.
No objection.
356. Admitted.
What is the jury seeing here?
This is the screenshot I just discussed. This is in the Apple Maps application. You can see the blue dot indicating the location of the phone. And it is right off of Highway 93, coming north or right between the location of Arvada and Boulder.
And from January of 2021 through March 22nd of 2021, did you see an increasing focus on Boulder through the defendant's phone?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe that for the jury, please?
Yes, I located an artifacts titled Apple Maps Biome App Intents. There were 322 artifacts in this category. Of those, 54 of them had specific addresses for businesses located in Boulder. Of the 322, a large number of them have no location name or address, so I don't know what city that particular artifact came from. And so the 54 artifacts here all relate to Boulder.
What do those 54 artifacts mean was actually happening with the defendant's phone?
Yes, again, I explained they're from Biome App Intents. The Biome is a database that stores files with the user's information. And the App Intents is it's provided by the iOS operating system by Apple to enhance the user experience, and it combines with the Biome the user's information to help predict and provide recommendations perhaps on what the phone might suggest to the user.
And are those artifacts appearing on the phone prompted by map searches being conducted by the user of the phone?
Yes, that's correct. The Biome portion of this artifact indicates and was revealed through my research that these artifacts appear here because the suspect was on his phone in the Apple Maps application looking at a map of Boulder and the businesses within that area displayed on the map. Additionally, there are artifacts that indicate the type. And so in this case, most of these are that the type is show. And then additionally, there is an action, and most of these say reveal, which help to show and reveal the address and the business at that particular location on the map.
So to be clear, it means that there's something being looked at on the map, and then this list is being recorded by the phone.
That's correct.
It doesn't mean the person's specifically hitting on this. It's more the map recording in the phone that this location's within that area.
That's correct.
And the list that appears in 357 and 357A was generated by the technology of the phone.
Yes, and the forensic tool used to parse the extraction from the phone.
Your Honor, at this time, people move 357 and 357A into evidence. Sorry.
No objection.
Admitted.
So the jury's perhaps a little too far back from this screen. So Ms. Sears, can you just walk us through what we see on 357, please?
Yes, on exhibit 357, these results, you can see it in the left-hand pane. It indicates location and travel. That is the category in which these artifacts were found. You'll see this appears slightly different because this was used through the magnet axiom forensic tool. And these particular artifacts listed on this page are the Apple Maps Biome App Intents. And to the right, you can see the matching results, 54 of 322. There are associated dates and times for these. And then you can see the type for all of these on 357 is show. The action is reveal. The location name indicates the actual business or location, the business at that particular location, and then the address of that business.
And what dates do we see on the left-hand side of the screen? This 357.
These dates range from March 6th, 2021 to March 18th, 2021.
during this time, is this when you're seeing a greater focus on Boulder, on the next phone?
Yes, yes,
The locations which are here in the north, fifth column over include different places such as Press Play, Bitter Bar, and other locations.
yes.
And 357A, what dates and time, what dates are reflected on 357?
These are the remaining 54. The dates go from March 17th, 2021 to March 21st, 2021.
Again, a greater focus on Boulder.
All of these locations are Boulder.
And what are the last few dates, times, and locations listed here?
On 3/21 at 12:22, Target at 2800 Pearl Street. At 12:23 on 3/21, Whole Foods Market at 2905 Pearl Street. On the same date at 6:23 a.m., Safeway at 2798 Arapahoe. On 3/21 at 12:25, Plato's Closet, 2510 Arapahoe. 3/21/2021 at 12:28, Safeway, 2798 Arapahoe. And the final one at 12:29 is Petco, 2480 Arapahoe Avenue.
And based on your review of the phone, where was the defendant on the morning of March 22nd, 2021?
At that time, I was able to determine that he was at his home in Arvada.
What was he looking at on his phone that morning?
He was, among other things, within the Apple Maps application, looking at the maps, looking at different locations within the city of Boulder.
I have nothing further. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just have a few questions for you about what we've been discussing with regards to Mr. Alissa's phone. And you had told us that prior to becoming a forensic analysis, you were actually a detective for Boulder Police Department.
That's correct.
Okay. And fair to say, as you were a detective for the Boulder Police Department and then as a forensic analysis, that you were often trying to figure out the why of why a crime may have occurred.
Yes, that is one of the goals of an investigation.
Okay. And fair to say, when you were conducting your analysis of Mr. Alissa's phone, you were hoping to get a better understanding of why did this all happen?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And you spent a lot of time with Mr. Alissa's phone?
Yes.
Okay. And none of the data or none of this extensive looking through all of the things we've talked about this afternoon could answer that why question.
That's correct.
Now, you told us that a number of different items were seized from the Alissa home.
Yes.
And you're aware through the course of the investigation and your role in it that Mr. Alissa lived with his family in Arvada.
Yes.
And there were a number of family members who lived in the home with him.
That's correct.
Hence why you had so many devices to go through, because there were so many people living in the home.
Yes.
And the FBI and other law enforcement agencies went to the Alissa home the evening of March 22nd.
Yes, they did.
And they executed a search warrant, which is when they collected all these devices.
Yes.
And the family was very cooperative with law enforcement in providing these devices.
Yes, they were.
Okay. The family was very cooperative and voluntarily signed consent forms and gave access to law enforcement to anything they found.
That's correct.
Now, in regards to the phone that we've been discussing this afternoon, you told the jury that this was found in the Mercedes at the King Soopers where this mass shooting occurred.
That's correct.
Okay. And you also told us that once you were able to look at the phone, you were easily able to identify that this was in fact Mr. Alissa's phone.
Yes,
And you went through different searches, the cache, the notes, the images, and throughout all of it, you could tell there was things that went directly to Mr. Alissa.
that's correct.
I want to talk a little bit about People's 353, which was the note that we saw. And again, a note is something an individual creates within their phone. Do you agree with that?
That's correct.
I oftentimes think maybe a list for the grocery store or, you know, your daily tasks of what you're doing. That's what people usually use the notes function for.
Yes.
Agree with that?
Yes,
Okay. And you told us that the note within Mr. Alissa's phone was titled BJJ.
that's correct.
And fair to say, you believe that stands for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And the final modification of that note you told us was on March 17th of 2021.
Yes,
And you also told us that note was first created on September 24th of 2020.
yes.
What you can't tell us, however, is how many times that note was modified between September of 2020 and March of 2021.
That is correct.
Someone could have modified it once, 10 times. We have no idea.
Correct. I did not look into the number of times modified, and it is unknown.
The other thing that the note can't tell you is what parts may have been created on September 24th, what parts may have been created in between this timeline, or what was created on March 17th.
That is also correct.
What we do know, however, is we saw, I believe it was 13 pages of Exhibit 353, this note.
Yes,
Okay. And Mr. Doherty took you through the note, and specifically, he took you to page 11 when we first see a change from talking about jiu-jitsu stuff to more guns and other type of stuff. Would you agree with that?
that's correct.
You told us that you've done hundreds, if not thousands, of forensic analysis on phones and other, like computers, other stuff like that?
Yes,
Okay. And agree that a phone nowadays is kind of like a handheld computer?
very much so.
People do a lot of things on their phone.
Yes,
Okay. And you learn a lot about someone by looking at their phone.
yes, I do.
We've seen that there's no doubt that Mr. Alissa had a clear infatuation or say obsession with guns, gun making material, body armor, those types of things.
Yes,
I think we heard a few different times that there was over 6,000 cached images.
that's correct.
Okay. You also took note of some other things with regards to Mr. Alissa's phone. And I think one of the things you said on direct was the actual overall storage that you were able to take from there was smaller. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
And can you just explain that a little bit more to the jury, what you meant about that?
Yes, so I'll explain again. This particular phone is an iPhone 7. The storage capacity is 128 gigabytes. And I had actually navigated within the settings of the phone and observed on the phone itself and in the extraction results, there were approximately about 30 gigabytes of used data. And that is similar to what I had recovered in my extraction. Also, it was approximately 30, a little above 30 gigabytes of data.
And you took note, though, that was very small in compared to what you usually see when people are using their phones a lot.
Yes, yes.
Another thing that you noticed with regards to Mr. Alissa's phones that was maybe different or odd when compared to other searches you had done is that there were fewer videos on his phone than, say, an average user.
That's correct.
Another thing that you noticed that was different between Mr. Alissa's phone and other people's phones that you've looked at was the call log contained far less calls than compared to, say, an average user.
That's correct.
I want to talk just for a minute about Exhibit 321, and that was the exhibit at Red Rocks where we see Mr. and Alissa in the picture with two other gentlemen.
Yes.
And you told us that it was easy for you to identify, that you could tell that was Red Rocks.
Yes.
We can see the sun in that picture. There's other people in it.
And the amphitheater I recognize. Yes.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, you said that was a download from Facebook to Mr. Alissa's phone. Did I get that right?
That image appears on the phone, and you will not see that image on the phone itself. If you were to manually scroll through the phone, it appears because it's within the file system and came from the Facebook application and is stored because of that. It is not downloaded on the phone.
Thank you for that clarification. So let me make sure I'm understanding that. Is fair to say the reason you could find that particular photo on Mr. Alissa's phone is because at some point he was in Facebook and saw that picture that was posted in Facebook?
That is my best assumption, yes.
Okay. And that photo was from January of 2021 when it came onto the phone.
That is the date that it would have been accessed via Facebook. Facebook data can be imported through other phones or other methods if you were to sign in on another phone.
So this can go back to that idea of our phones now are a lot like computers, is there is so much going on behind the phone than we may even realize when we're accessing a website.
Very much so, yes.
Okay. So what we're talking about here is Mr. Alissa is in Facebook, and then all of a sudden you're looking at his phone and you can see this image from Facebook through his phone because he used his phone to get on Facebook.
That's correct.
Okay. I then want to talk to you about Exhibit 338. And this had a number of letters along with it. And this had to do with searches that Mr. Alissa had done on his phone. Bringing back your memory of what we're talking about? Okay,
Thanks.
great. And on March 22nd of 2021, you had told us that by looking at Mr. Alissa's phone, you were able to tell that the morning prior to the shooting, he was at home looking at Google Maps.
That's correct.
And you're able to tell that by looking through the history, looking at that Google Maps stuff we looked at. You were also able to find other things he searched that particular day.
Yes, and correction, it was Apple Maps, not Google Maps, but I did find indications of other searches that morning, yes.
Thank you. And one of the searches Mr. Alissa did the morning of the shooting, less than 3 hours before he went to the King Soopers, was look up Kanye West.
Yes.
And he didn't just look up Kanye West. That was one search. And then we have a second search, Kanye West's net worth.
That's correct.
And this is at approximately 11:47 a.m.
Yes.
At the very end of your testimony with Mr. Doherty, you talked about things that tied the phone and Mr. Alissa to Boulder. So I want to just talk about that for a minute. When you were doing your forensic analysis, you told us you're looking at all different things to try to get a better idea of why this may have happened, how this happened, those types of things. Would you agree with that?
That's correct.
And you made some conclusions at the end of your analysis about what you reviewed and what you could say.
Yes.
And by doing that, one of the things that you concluded in your analysis is that there was nothing or no apparent reason why the King Supers in Boulder was specifically targeted.
That's correct.
There also was nothing in the phone to indicate why the mass shooting occurred on that date.
Correct.
If I can just have a moment.
Yes.
Thank you, Detective Sears. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, just a couple questions. Ms. Sears, in the notes section, did that include instructions on how to manipulate an assault rifle
Yes, it did.
and how to move and shoot at the same time?
Yes, it did.
And the recommended stance for shooting an assault rifle?
Yes, it did.
And counsel, and this is what I'm following up on, counsel was just asking you about where that appears in the note. Is all of that towards the bottom of the note that was last modified on March 17th of 2021?
Yes, it is.
And Ms. Harold asked if you agreed with her that the defendant had a clear obsession for guns and gun-making material. Do you agree with that? That he had, through his phone, demonstrated a clear obsession, with this kind of topic?
I can say that the number of cached images that were recovered relating to firearms, tactics, weapons, ammunition, eye and ear protection, accessories for firearms, that was a significant interest in the user of that phone.
And counsel just asked you about Boulder. Would you agree that Boulder appeared to be strongly targeted by the defendant?
Yes, absolutely.
Even more so in the days and week or days leading up to March 22nd, 2021?
Yes.
And counsel asked you about the why. What I would ask you is this: was there clear evidence from the defendant, from everything we just discussed, as well as the defendant's prior interest in mass shootings, where the defendant was very focused on carrying out a mass shooting?
Yes, absolutely.
And nothing further. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, you are excused and you're released from your subpoena. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, the people would call Commander Josh Bonafide.
Want to grab those exhibits?
Yes, sure.
Good afternoon. If you'll just work your way to your left around. Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury any testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Go ahead and introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for us, please.
I'm Commander Joshua Bonafide. It's Bonafede.
How are you employed, Commander?
I'm a commander with the Boulder County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your job as a commander?
Currently, I'm our admin commander, which means I handle all of our budgeting policies and procedures, but I also oversee our SWAT team, K9 unit, and our drone program.
How long have you been?
Our drone program
How long have you been with the Boulder County Sheriff?
since 2008.
Did you have any experience before coming to Boulder County?
Yes, I've been in law enforcement since 2001.
So over 2 decades?
Yeah.
What other roles before becoming commander did you hold?
I was on the SWAT team as a sergeant, which was a tactical team leader. I was on the SWAT team as a deputy. I've worked in the civil unit, patrol, the jail, various other things.
In March of 2021, what was your assignment that time?
So I was a sergeant assigned to the civil division, but I was our commander over the SWAT team.
What does that mean to be the commander over the SWAT team?
It basically means you run the entire SWAT team, all of our training, all of our missions, everything, our budgeting.
Describe briefly for the jury what the SWAT team is.
So it's special weapons and tactics. We basically handle anything that's outside of the capabilities of patrol. So if they have anything that's high risk, we'll call them the SWAT team. If there's any mass disasters, we'll use them for evacuations. It's just a very well-trained, very coordinated team that works well together.
Did you respond as part of the SWAT team for Boulder County on March 22nd of 2021 to the shooting?
I did.
Can you describe how that took place?
Yeah, it was actually my day off. So I was at home and I got an alert on my phone. We use an app called Active 911 to give us alerts. So I got an alert on my phone saying there was an active shooter at the King Supers with an officer down. So I grabbed my gun and jumped in my patrol car and headed that way.
About how long did it take you to get there?
I was running emergency, so I'm guessing from my residence, probably 20 minutes.
What did you find when you got to the scene?
While en route, I started hearing radio traffic that led me to believe there wasn't a team inside of the King Supers, a team of officers inside the King Supers. So I called Commander Nick Goldberger and basically said, there's not a team inside. I'm going to put together a team to go in. Can you take tactical command for the sheriff's office piece of this? Obviously, Boulder PD would have their command, but we wanted someone from our side there as well. So he agreed to do that so I could try to get a team together.
What other information did you learn while you were traveling from your residence to the scene?
There was radio traffic about multiple shooters inside the building. We believed there was an officer down directly inside the building with multiple casualties as well.
So when you got to the scene, who did you make contact with?
Patrick Compton, who was a sergeant with the Boulder County, or sorry, the Boulder Police Department.
And can you just describe what was going on when you got there?
Yeah, when I pulled up, there was more cop cars than I could count, more police officers I could count. They were all in staging. Sergeant Compton was doing his best job trying to get people bunched together based on agency into groups and teams so we could form rescue task force to go into the store. I made my way immediately to Sergeant Compton. We know each other very well, so it was easy to speak with him on scene. And basically said, I got my team here. We want to go in.
How many members were on your team when you took them in?
I don't recall because I saw more of my team members as we were approaching the store. So I started grabbing more of my team members to shore up how many guys we had.
And did you guys do something as a team before you were able to approach the front of the store?
Yeah, we were told we weren't allowed to go in the store unless we had rifle shields or at least a rifle shield with us. Again, they believed there was multiple shooters inside the store, up to 3. And there was intel that there was a shooter on the phone with dispatch saying that he was setting up an ambush for us inside the store. So we had to get a rifle shield before we were allowed to go into the store.
The other information you were provided as you were traveling to the scene and after arriving is that at least one of the shooters had a rifle?
Correct.
Explain what a rifle shield is.
Yeah, so there's different levels of shields. Up until this event, most of our shields were pistol shields, which means they can only stop pistol rounds. Since we believed he had a rifle, we wanted to get something that had better protection. There wasn't at the time a lot of those in the county. There's certainly a lot more now. So finding one was not easy. We did, Boulder Police Department does have it's called a smart truck, but it's a truck that holds a lot of SWAT gear on it. It's brand new to the police department. At the time, it was brand new to the police department. We knew there was rifle shields on those. So I directed some of my operators to go over to that truck and grab what rifle shields they could.
And operators are just a way of referring to the SWAT team members that you were in
Correct.
charge of?
Yeah, we call them operators.
Can you describe how you approached the front of the store once you had the rifle shield?
Yeah, when I sent them over to the truck to get a rifle shield, I thought they'd get a small one-person shield. There's different sizes. A one-person shield obviously is held by one person to provide protection. Everybody stacks up behind that. What they ended up grabbing was a very large shield that we'd never trained on. It had to be assembled. It was on wheels. It usually took 2 to 3 operators to maneuver the shield. So we're very unfamiliar with this piece of equipment. But we end up getting assembled and we start moving towards the store with this large rifle shield.
For folks not familiar with firearms, can you just describe why there's a significant difference between a shield designed to stop handgun rounds and one designed to stop rifle rounds?
Yeah, handgun rounds travel somewhere probably around 850 feet per second. A rifle round's probably about 2,800 or higher feet per second. So it takes a lot more ballistic protection to stop a rifle round than it does a handgun round.
Where did you approach the store?
We approached on the east side near the handicap ramp.
And when you got to the handicap ramp, what did you find?
There was a large number of officers standing on the ramp. So we basically just started yelling, part the way, get out of the way. The shield was very big, so they all had to kind of part the seas so we could get up there with the shield.
Ultimately, when you got to the entrance up the ramp, describe what you did.
So the entire store looked like it was just chaos from what I could see from the outside, as far as debris and clutter everywhere. There was glass broken everywhere. There was pieces of metal everywhere. And maneuvering that shield was very difficult with all that debris there. I radioed to command and basically said, hey, we're ready to make entry. The radio was just chaos the entire event. There was so much traffic on it that we really couldn't communicate with ourselves, much less command. So I just made a determination we're going in.
When you went in, what did you see as soon as you got inside the doors?
Yeah, we were able to finally maneuver the shield through the initial threshold of the store over the glass. And as we're turning the shield, I noticed we had a downed party, a female, off to our right-hand side.
What other observations did you make?
We got the shield in a little bit further in the store, and I noticed Officer Talley down in front of us. I'm not sure the distance, probably 30 feet, 40 feet.
In entering the store as commander of the SWAT team, what challenges did you face when you got inside?
Well, there's multiple angles that we had to cover that could be potential threats to us. So for a good portion of the beginning of the entrance is me trying to coordinate where people are going to be pointing their rifles, make sure we don't get ambushed. We were pretty sure we were going to come under fire almost immediately when making entry. So we had to take that initial entry pretty slow, probably slower than we would like, just to make sure we had all of our angles covered for our protection.
You were aware when you made entry that the two teams that made entry before you both took fire?
Yes.
Describe how your team moved into the store.
So we got the shield probably 15, maybe 20 feet inside the store, and we were trying to talk about how we're going to maneuver it. I wanted to get up to Officer Talley. I wasn't sure if he was alive or dead. I had reports that he was dead, but I still wanted to get to him. We couldn't get the shield to him, so I just made the determination I was going to crawl to him. So I told my operators to cover off for me, which basically means they're just going to come over with the rifles and protect the aisles. So they covered off, and I crawled to him and drug him out of the store.
Was Officer Talley deceased when you got to him?
Yes.
When you got him back to the doorway, did you hand him off to other BPD officers that were outside?
Yeah, there was a large contingent still of officers outside, and I basically handed them to them, said, get him in an ambulance.
After you got Officer Talley out, did you return to your team?
I did.
At that point, what happened?
So again, we had multiple angles we had to cover. My concern was that we had a lot of people bleeding out inside the store. Lessons we've learned from other active shooting incidents is if you can get people who are bleeding out and treat them, you can probably save some lives. So my exigency in that point was to get to people who are bleeding out and injured.
So you were trying to push into the store to find additional victims.
Correct.
What happened as you continued to push into the store a little ways?
I heard several of my team members say contact left or suspect left or male party left. So it drew a lot of our attention left towards the pharmacy area, which is the east side of the store. I saw a male coming around a bin, and he has hands up in the air. The only thing he had on was underwear. He didn't have a shirt or pants on, just his underwear, and he appeared to be shot in his right leg.
What was the man doing?
He was walking towards us.
Can you describe anything else about the person you saw coming towards you?
He had a beard, kind of shorter, heavier set.
Do you see that man in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you identify where he's at and what he's wearing?
I sit at the defense table with the white button-up shirt and the glasses.
Judge, I would ask that the record reflect identification of the defendant.
Well,
What did you and your team do as he started to come towards you?
We did a good job of having one person give commands rather than all of us shouting at him. Initially, we were all shouting, put your hands up and stuff like that. So eventually one of our operators yelled one voice, meaning one person give commands. We began giving commands to him and told him to come towards us, and he complied. He came towards us. Our operator told him to turn around, get down your knees. And when he did that, he put him down in the aisle in front of our team where we would have been exposed had we had to go out and handcuff him there. So we all said, no, stand him back up and bring him back to us. So our operator told him to stand up, get back to us, which he did. And then they end up kneeling him down directly in front of myself and Detective Miriam.
During this time, were there multiple commands given of a different nature to move to different positions to do different things?
As far as
telling him to move to his right and to back up and to turn.
yes,
And did he comply with every single one of those commands?
yes, every command we told him he complied with.
Ultimately, after he got back to you and your team, what did you do?
So he kneeled down in front of Detective Miriam and myself. I handed Detective Miriam my handcuffs. He handcuffed him, and then we stood him up.
What'd you do with him at that point?
Well, I was confused why he didn't have any clothes on. So I said, where are your clothes at? He said, over there, nodded to the east of the store. And I said, why aren't you wearing any clothes? And he just shook his head. And then I started wondering, is this guy a victim who's not wearing clothes because he wants us to see his gunshot wound, or is he our suspect? So I said, where are the guns at? And he said, over there, indicating the same direction as his clothes. And I said, did you shoot anybody? And he didn't say anything. And I said, are you our shooter? And he said, I guess we'll find out.
Was this entire interaction, the commands that he was given and his responses, as well as your questions and his answers, captured on your body worn cam?
It was.
Judge, if I could approach.
Yes, sir.
Commander, I've handed you what's been marked for identification as People's Exhibit 311. Can you identify that for the court?
Yeah, it's a DVD or CD that has video of my body-worn camera from that day.
Have you had an opportunity to review that CD?
I have.
How do you know that?
I watched it on a computer about an hour ago and then
Did you-
initialed and dated it.
Judge, I would move to admit People's Exhibit 311
No objection.
Admitted.
and permission to publish.
Yes, sir.
Turn the shield towards him. Turn the shield towards him. Yeah. Keep rolling. Moving back. It's not the track. That's good. Stop. Keep going. Stop. Good check with good contact. Point backwards. Walk away. Keep going. Keep contact. Keep coming back towards the side of my road. Keep coming. Stop. Stop. You got hands shoving team up. Bring him back real quick. Bring him back to us. Already stand back up. This way we can stand back up. I know I'm telling you do a lot of stuff, but it's gonna be okay. Come back next. You see no back to my voice. You keep no back to my voice, all right? Got cuffs? Yeah. Back to my voice. And keep covering. You get this out. Keep covering. Keep covering. Wait for you. Aiden, I got it. Bring it, Aiden, I got it. Keep that. Bring it. Keep back down. Take one step to your right. Aiden, I got it. Take one step to your right. 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 Step back. Come back. Walk backward. Continue. Take 5. Come on. Put your hands on your head. Hold your fingers. Bring them back. Where's your clothes at, man? Where's your clothes? Why'd you take them off? Where's the gun? Over there. Good. Did you shoot at them? Are you our shooter? Huh? Are you our shooter? Give me a team up. I'm doing for shield.
On this body worn cam, we see the date and timestamp upside down on the bottom right. Can you explain that for the jury?
Yeah, body cams were new to our team and we hadn't purchased anything special for SWAT. We're using our patrol body worn cams. The only way we could find to mount them at the time was to Velcro them to the top of our helmets. And when we did that, it basically made the recording upside down. Sometimes it'd be right side up, but a lot of times it'd be upside down. So we just have to go back into our system and correct that.
So in correcting it to make the video show right side up, it results in the date and timestamp being upside down.
Correct.
After you hand it off, or I guess, what did you do after you put the cuffs on?
Yeah, I questioned him when I wasn't really getting the answers I was hoping to figure out if he was our only threat, if there's more threats, if he was our suspect. I basically was done questioning him and we got him out of the store so we could continue trying to find wounded and other suspects.
What did you do what did you do with them when you got him out of the store?
We passed him off to other officers. They're outside.
What did you do at that point with your team?
So at that point, I wanted to get the store cleared. We wanted to start looking for wounded. We wanted to see if there's any other suspects. We still believe there's probably 2 other suspects in the store. So I made the determination we were just going to ditch that shield that was doing no good for us and just start clearing the store.
Describe what clearing the store means.
In this situation, there was a lot of officers. Longmont SWAT team had just come in the door shortly after we passed him off. So I met up with their SWAT commander, Craig Mortensen, and just basically said, hey, man, we got to get the store cleared as fast as possible. Can you get your guys online? We'll get our guys online and we'll just go push the entire store down the aisles and see if we can find anybody injured or any more suspects.
Did additional SWAT teams join the effort to clear the store as well?
Yeah, well, initially it was just us and Longmont. We set up to start clearing the store and then Denver police showed up with their SWAT team. We knew there was a break room above us, an employee break room above us. So I directed Denver SWAT to find a way to get up there. We hadn't found the stairs yet. We want to get them up there and secure that area because we didn't know if we had victims up there, if we had people uninjured that were hiding or what.
Were you aware of that office space upstairs because of the 911 calls that were coming in indicating people were hiding up there?
That, and we could see it when we walked in. There's obviously a balcony up there that overlooked the store.
So describe when you're clearing something like a supermarket, how you do that.
It's very difficult. There's threat areas everywhere you go. So you try to cover down the best you can with the angles and move very quickly.
As you move through the store quickly to try and identify or locate additional victims, did you find anyone that was wounded?
We found people who were completely uninjured. Anybody that we found that had any wounds were deceased.
With respect to those you found that were uninjured, what types of areas in the store did you find those people in?
There were some people in a janitor closet. There was a lot of people upstairs in that break room area. Wasn't specifically part of the team that found a female who was down one of the aisles hiding behind some boxes of cereal, but I was told there was a female hiding behind some boxes of cereal. We basically kind of tried to collect those people and gather them up.
Were there efforts to confirm that the parties that were down were in fact deceased?
Yeah, after we did our initial clearance of the store and we realized there was no additional threats to us or anybody else, we started doing what's called a rescue task force, which basically means we pair up a medic with a couple of officers to start going around and checking to see if we can render aid to anybody. So I coordinated getting our TEMs, which is tactical medics, in there, teaming them up with other officers and going and checking all the wounded.
And these medics are part of the SWAT teams?
Yes.
And so they're like geared up like the SWAT officers. We're not talking paramedics off of the ambulance.
Correct.
They operate with your team, so they know tactically what you're doing and what they're doing and everything like that.
That's correct.
And did you coordinate medics checking each and every one of the individuals that were down inside the store?
Yes, I basically got with our TEMs and other operators and just said, go around and start checking everybody. Come back and report to me as soon as you can. It wasn't too long into that I was told there are no survivors.
Talk about how you coordinated the efforts to get the uninjured out and how you guys did so.
Yeah, we realized there's a lot of things we didn't want people to see near the front of the store. So we made the determination that we were going to build kind of a corridor of SWAT operators that would go down one of the eastern aisles and just line the entire aisle and the entire area with SWAT operators going all the way out the back of the store. So kind of create a safe corridor and also block them from seeing any of the things that we didn't want them to see at the front of the store.
And things you didn't want them to see, you were talking about the deceased at the front.
Yeah, the dead bodies at the front along with all the blood from Officer Talley.
Judge, I don't have any further questions for Commander Bonifay.
Good afternoon, Commander.
Good afternoon.
You had told us that you have over 2 decades of law enforcement experience.
That's correct.
And in March of 2021, you were the commander of the SWAT team,
Yes, ma'am.
which means in essence, you're in charge of that SWAT team?
Yes.
Okay. And we just saw your body cam video of when you came into contact with Mr. Alissa in the King Supers that day.
Yes.
And you told us you were trying to ask him questions, trying to get information, what's going on here.
Correct.
And during the course of that, one of the things you notice about Mr. Alissa is how calm he was.
That's correct.
It kind of struck you.
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Sorry,
Okay.
yes.
In addition to noticing how calm Mr. Alissa appeared to be, you also couldn't tell whether he was under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or if he was having some type of mental illness or mental health break.
That's correct.
Fair to say over the last 2 decades of law enforcement, you've had lots of encounters with suspects, witnesses, and victims?
Yes.
Part of your job is to take note of how someone is behaving when you're interacting with them,
Yes.
because that can be important to the overall investigation. Okay. Thank you, Commander. No further questions.
Commander, is what the jury saw on your body worn cam the extent of the time spent with the defendant and your interactions with him on that day?
Yes.
Nothing more.
All right, you may be excused.
Thank
Thank you, and you're released from your subpoena. All right, we're now going to recess for the day. I want to remind you that until the trial is completed, do not discuss the case with anyone by any means. It includes your family, people involved in the trial, other jurors, or anyone else. If anyone approaches you and tries to discuss the case with you, stop them and then let me know about it as soon as you can. You must not read or listen to any news reports of the trial. You must not consult any outside references or do any research about the trial, similar types of trials or cases, or any of the parties. And finally, remember, it is especially important you do not form or express any opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. Thank you. Have a good evening. See you tomorrow morning.
And then requesting that the defense witnesses not be allowed to talk about the fact that Mr. Alissa was incompetent or that they found him incompetent. And the court granted that motion in limine based on how that played in with the sanity piece of things and finding under a 403 analysis, it didn't have probative value.
The system's rigged, man, it's time to break free. Eyes wide open, gotta see what I see. Standing on the front lines, fighting for the truth. Lift the veil of lies, it's time to be the proof. Take a stand, don't you back down. Raise your voice.